becoming a situation of complete and total lawlessness. And we're getting rid of the slums too. We have slums here. We're getting rid of them. I know it's not politically correct. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live. Caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets at all times of the day. ATVs, motorbikes, they travel pretty well. Entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that, the Navy Yard. I saw it this morning. They saw that they fought back against law. See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night. And they're not going to be fighting back long, because I've instructed them and told them whatever happens, you know, they love to spit in the face of the police. As the police are standing up there in uniform, they're standing and they're
All right, all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. Double honors to the Wahara Kakadash, double honors to the apostles over the Great Millstone Church. Salutations to the elder bishops as well, on down to the rest of the elders and Akim, also of the branches, hold forth the true word of life. So, your brother coming back with another lesson, Brother Shariat. And yeah, in this lesson, I'm pretty much just going to be dealing with, you know, prophecy. You know, one of the big end time prophecies. And that's, you know, pretty much the civil unrest, the putting to death of a lot of Israelites, so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians, West Indians, and so forth, through the civil unrest, and ultimately the detainment centers. You know what I'm saying? The placement of you in the detention centers and concentration camps. You know, so forth and so on. You know, the rounding up. You know, the pushing forth of martial law, the declaring of martial law, or which I should say is all going to be seen through the declaring of martial law, state of emergency, and something known as habeas corpus, or corpses. Let's 1 second. We get that word habeas corpus.
Habeas corpus.
Basically, I should say the restricting or removing of, you know, habeas corpus, because it says any of several common law writs to bring a party, right, or individual before a court or a judge. All right. So the right of a prisoner or detained. So pretty much it's dealing with when you know, bring somebody, you know, into detention or you know, imprisonment and things like that. You know, one being subject to that. All right. And when you get into two, the reason why I said they're going to suspend habeas corpus or habeas corpus is because it says the right of a prisoner or detainee to obtain a right of habeas corpus as a protection against illegal imprisonment. So they're gonna get rid of it, meaning they're not gonna need they're gonna just justify them just gathering Jacob, because how do you justify having, you know, toddlers, you know, little boys, little girls, or whoever in detention centers, just because you got them through the suite, through a suite of a neighborhood that they was in, you know, found in one of the homes. How? You know, that would be obviously showing you that it's gonna get real illegal, very like tyrannical, you know, and that when you put something like, okay, y'all gonna be rounded up and put in the concentration camps, basically, obviously, that would show you rights is out the window. Well, that's what prevents. This is what prevents it from happening like that. Something called habeas corpus, because if they really wanted to, they could. But it's the setup of the laws they have, known as martial law and the state of emergency. All right, which they declare martial law first. All right. So let's get that real quick. So you got martial law. Martial law is the replacement of civilian government by military rule and the suspension of civilian illegal. Matter of fact, we'll come back to this, but I'll finish the sentence of civilian legal processes for military power. So, you know, that's that. And then you got the state of emergency, which is pretty much when they decide what's going to be what, because it's gotten that serious. Like, people don't have a right for themselves. It says a state of emergency allows government to implement extraordinary measures to protect citizens, during crises such as natural disasters or civil unrest. See that? So it's going to be through this pushing forth of martial law, which is, pretty much a response to civil unrest that's going to actually cause a true state of civil unrest to where they'll truly be able to declare state of emergency. And then they'll be able to go to extraordinary measures to keep people safe. And that might be locking up people like without any explanation, or a said group of people hits a party like I read here on the Merriam-Webster dictionary, right? For the term or the phrase or the concept known as habeas corpus, which said any of several common law rights issued to bring a party before a court or judge. See that? And a party could be, a race of people. You know what I'm saying? A particular group of a race of people, and more specifics. So, to where now they're able to remove that. There's no more rights. You're just gonna be brought. We have to have you, because when you break the word habeas down, habeas goes back to have, and corpus go back to body. So it means to have the body. All right, but to possess you, man, and that's it. You're seen as a threat to yourself, your children, so forth and so on. That's what's brewing, and that's what Trump was going into. All right, but them the times that's to come, and ultimately what I wanted to touch on through spirit. So, with that being said, let's go here. All right, this is Psalm 69 and verse 14. It says what? It says, deliver me out of the mire, and let me not sink, because it's getting real treacherous out here. All right. Jake, in the shit, man, and some shit. It says, let me be delivered from them that hate me, and out of the deep waters. See? And out of the deep waters. Now, waters represent people, a bunch of people. When you go to Revelation 17 and 15, it says what? We're going to read verse 1 first. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither. I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. All right, so I'm going to jump down to verse 15. And he said unto me, right, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes. See, and multitudes and nations and tongues. See, those is the waters. So waters can be used to represent a bunch of people. All right, is what I should have said. You know, it's not always the case, but it can be used to represent a bunch of people. And when you go into this word multitude,
Strong's G 3793, achlas. Achlas.
it says what? It says the multitudes, number one, seems to denote troops of people gathered together without order. Yeah, without true order. You know what I'm saying? Is that's what multitudes can represent. So the waters can represent troops. You know, it says a class of people, figuratively a riot. All right. So the armies of Esau. So let's go back to Psalm 69 and 14 continue, or 15. Let not the water flood. See, let not the water flood overflow me. See that? So let's go back to 14. Deliver me out of the mire, let me not sink. Let me be delivered from them that hate me, and out of the deep waters. See, and out of the deep waters. All right. So representing troops, people. Let not the water flood overflow me. See that? So it's an abrupt rushing of troops, because it's not just waters, it's a water flood. It's a flood of water. So this is an abrupt rushing of troops. It says, let not the water flood overflow me. And Jake always deal with this in the time of antiquity. And this is going to happen again. It says, neither let, as we see playing out, neither let the deep swallow me up, and let not the pit shut her mouth upon me. So pretty much, he's going to question, we're going to need for these people to not gather us up, you know? The elect, those that the Lord's gonna have mercy on us, that have mercy on it, that got the dua, all right, and let not the pit shut her mouth upon me, right? Dealing with they goddamn death camps, all right, FEMA camps where they got graves already on deck, you know, those hell holes, those prison houses. You see that? So since I say that, let's get one more real quick. This is Jeremiah 4 and verse 22. Salakia. Isaiah 42 and 22. It says, we'll start at 19. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Lord's servant? Seeing many things, but thou observe it not. Yeah, these people about to come round y'all up, you Jakes in DC. This order is about to spread abroad. You see what I'm saying? They're about to try to get rid of you through these measures. He wants to get rid of the slums. He said police, which would be troops, can do whatever the hell they want. All right. So he talking about, beyond physical means. He putting people to death. See that? And you can't see that. You can't see that, okay, this is exactly what the scriptures is talking about. This is exactly what the prophets, our apostles, was talking about, the apostles of the Great Millstone Church. You know? It says, And that go because these other camps like IUIC was saying it wasn't gonna be no Jacob's Trouble and all this detention camp centers and all that stuff. All right, and look what's happening now. You know, with the ICE raids and stuff, prison alligator Alcatraz and stuff real. And the damn so-called blacks, they thought they was damn free, you know? So I'm gonna get a couple more videos and that, you know, pretty much do it, you know, just showing you what's gonna play out. But nonetheless, it says, seeing many things, but thou observing not. Observe is not. Opening the ears, but hear it not. So you hear all this, you see all this. You got dang Jakes in DC seeing this, and they not really even still not adhering or understanding what's going on. You know, it says the Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. Yahweh Shemiah Shah is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. All right, so the Lord, he good, because he shows, he said, he told, he warned. All right, so he well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He ain't, you know, he ain't sweat nothing. You know, it says he will magnify the law and make it honorable. Exactly, because he gave us a way to where you wouldn't be gotten it, and the nigga gonna appreciate it in that day, because they gonna see the error in their way during these times. You know, and that he was the only way. And you shouldn't have been doing wrong, going against the Lord. You should have been following the scriptures. You should have been listening to the apostles and the prophets. All right, the true men, man. You're going to know that a prophet had been among you. He's going to magnify the law and make it honorable. See that? So he not sweating when these things happen. He not, man, I should have did this. He not, nah. You know? But this is a people, see? But nonetheless, but this is a people robbed and spoiled. See that? They are all of them snared in holes. Nonetheless, this devil still plotted on y'all. Y'all didn't see it coming. You know what I'm saying? He dealt one way, you know what I'm saying, and charmed and all of that, you know. And he bit you. He had you, he presented, you know, wine to you, you know, that looked red, it moved like wine, but at the end it bit like a damn serpent. It was poison. You see what I'm saying? It was to set you up. Because the scriptures say wine is a mocker and strong drink is raging. You know, so he filled you up with this doctrine just to get a hold of you, and then he pretty much has you do things to where he could be excused or have an excuse to take you out. All right. So that's pretty much that. But this the point. It says, but this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. See that? They are hid in prison houses. See that? Them detention camps, detention centers, they are for a prey and none delivered them. If the jail's already packed with you, how much, like, how is this like something you can't see happening? Like, how is this not exactly what's gonna happen? You know? They're gonna pack the jails with your babies, you know, or our little ones, so forth and so on. With the old, you know, damn women, men, old men, don't matter. Young men, a lot gonna die, you know, before they even can make it to a detention center. You know what I'm saying? That's what's gonna happen. It's gonna get real ugly. You're gonna die in the detention centers, you know, and that's when the Lord's law, you know, as prophets, you know, his word is going to be made honorable. Because remember, this is the book of the law. So this whole book is going to be magnified in Jake's eyes, you know. They are for a prey, none delivered, for a spoil, and none said restore. So these people are particularly specifically preyed on. So let's listen to Trump again. All right.
Screaming at him, an inch away from them in uniform, they're standing, and they're screaming at him, an inch away from their face, and then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit, and they can hit real hard. It's a disgusting thing. I've watched that for years, for 3, 4 years. I've watched them.
So let's go back here. This is Isaiah 19, a message to Egypt, verse 4. It says, "And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord." See that? And who the Egyptians would be? Jakes that went down into Egypt to ask for help, to try to be Americans and all that. You know, they president is black, they Lambos blue, and all this crap, It says, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord. See that? A cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord. The Lord, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, the Lord Yahweh of hosts. All right? So that's what you're seeing. This that cruel Lord, man. You spit, like he said, they hit. All right?
Police are standing, and they're told, don't do anything under any search. So and you can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there, and people are spitting in their face, and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want. This dire public safety crisis stems directly. This dire public safety allowed to do whatever the hell they want. They are allowed to do whatever the hell they want. This dire public safety.
See? And this is for who? Jake. Listen listen to who he described.
Went through, and you saw that the Navy Yard. I saw it this morning. They saw the caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets that they live. Caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets at all times of the day. There are ATVs, motorbikes. They travel pretty well. Entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, all times of the day. Caravans of mass. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live.
See? The ghettos, the slums.
Caravans of mass youth.
The traps.
Rampage through city streets at all times.
The caravans of mass youth. Listen closely.
Rampage. Caravans of mass youth. Rampage through.
So Lil YNs helping make up what? Caravans. What's a caravan? All right, let's look that word caravan up. All right, caravan.
Caravan.
It says a vehicle equipped for living in, typically a trailer towed by a car and used for traveling for recreation. It says, so it's campers. So what they talking about? They talking about sprinter vans and stuff like that. All right, let's go back to this to let this double, get a little bit more. But a caravan is also a group of people who travel together. That's what I wanted. Cambridge. It says learn the meaning of caravan as a vehicle, right? Or a group of people who travel together. So he's talking about a bunch of little YNs roaming throughout the streets on the little ATVs, the little dirt bikes, bikes and so forth and so on.
City streets at caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets at all times of the day. There are ATVs, motorbikes. They travel pretty well. Entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that the Navy Yard. I saw it this morning. They saw that they fought back against law. See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night, and they're not going to be fighting back long, because I've instructed them and told them whatever happens, they love to spit in the face of the police as the police are standing up there in uniform. They're standing and they're screaming at them.
See? Did you hear it?
That they fought back against. So see, they caravans of mass youth rampage. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live. Caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets at all times of the day. ATVs, motorbikes, they travel pretty well. Entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that, the Navy Yard. I saw it this morning.
Yeah, man. So it's not rocket science. You talking about little, you talking about Jake, man. All right. This is heavy on the East Coast. All right, which is where they releasing this at, in the DMV. All right. Jake on the dirt bikes. Jake on the ATVs. Jake making up these caravans he talking about. All right, was a group of people that travel together, all throughout, the streets of the cities. All right, the slums, the hoods. This is what you talking about. All right. They finna crack down. They tired of seeing it. The Lord tired of seeing it. It was a good picture I had pulled up, showing that caravan. Matter of fact, let's do this. But those that know. All right. Let me see. So, all right, as you see. Crazy, man. Wow. Here we go. It's a good one right here. There you go. All throughout New York. You know what I'm saying? So, that's what we talking about, bro. Say they travel pretty well. Not playing with Jake. But Jake thinks it's a game. Jake playing. All right.
Morning, they saw that they fought back against. So see, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night, and they're not going to be fighting back long, because I've instructed them, and
they're gonna start putting you to death. But see, that's when it hits the level of civil unrest. And then once that hits, right? Because right now this would be martial law. Which martial law dealt with what again? It says martial law is the replacement of civilian government, right? Which is like regular police by military rule, and the suspension of civilian legal processes for military power. So there ain't gonna be no more neighborhood watching and all that. They gonna like, nah, we doing this. Martial law can continue for a specific amount of time or specified amount of time. It says, or indefinitely, and standard civil liberties may be suspended for as long as martial law continues. So really, the taking away of habeas corpus is within martial law, because it says standard civil liberties, which is freedoms, may be suspended for a long, as long as martial law. Which it could be technical either side. You can technically say that will consist of suspending habeas corpus, or you can, be technical and say it wouldn't technically constitute being able to do such a thing. But, that's how these devils play. To where now, which I'll just get the next video, to where now it gets to this point. All right.
I have lived in Washington, D.C. since 1991. I remember that first year in this city very well. For my career, it was nonstop exhilaration. As a resident, however, there was a different kind of rush. It came from a gnawing fear of violence. 504 people were murdered in Washington, D.C. that year, 1991. It was the highest rate ever. And for context, the murder rate in the nation's capital hovered for years around 400, and it didn't fall below 300 per year until 1998. The number of murders in D.C. in 2024, according to statistics cited by the Trump White House this week, was 186. To review, my first year in D.C. in 1991, 504 murders. Last year, 186. And we are now led to believe, in President Trump's words, that crime in D.C. right now is worse than it's ever been. When I moved to D.C. in 1991, there were straight-up no-go zones, places where cabs, remember, this was before Uber and Lyft, simply would not travel, not at any price. The city existed in a kind of numb terror. It functioned. People shopped, went to work, played in parks, but uneasily. Fast forward to last year. When this show was still America Decides, I was absent for 5 weeks. I served for 5 weeks on a D.C. criminal grand jury, reviewed evidence and cases for possible prosecution. Victims sat feet away from me in that grand jury room, trembling in fear from what they had been through: robberies, muggings, carjackings, shootings, and worse. I stared into the haunted eyes of crime victims in this city. Statistics about crime trajectories, up or down, are meaningless to an individual victim. The victim shudders over what happened to them, not whether that crime is on an up or down annual arrow. But statistics are important to a society, to a government seeking proportionality and assessing priorities, where to focus, what to do, for how long, and how do you measure success? How do you improve safety and preserve a sense of being? Here's a question. Do federal checkpoints for seatbelts accomplish any of this? Well, there was one last night here in the nation's capital. It drew protests from bystanders and disbelief from people inside their cars. Crime happens in Washington, but as the stats, the White House...
So they stopping us to make sure us got their seatbelts on, and then now Jakes get antsy, people get irritated, and not even just Jakes, people period, because everybody's subject to this now. But this will be known as Jacob's Trouble. And then you got these people that take their jobs, serious, or they try to get off through their jobs, to where now they end up doing the most. Somebody end up getting shot, and then there you go. So now it goes from this what they trying to present, to be the issue, all the murders, which it is. And that's why through this, the law is going to be magnified. You know what I'm saying? Stop murdering. Stop not listening to the commandments of God, of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shema Shah. But nonetheless, to get to that point is going to be a lot of death on both ends. It's going to be, it's going to get wild. It's going to be a lot of unrest, and that's on the movie you can watch. It's called Civil War. I believe it's called. You know what I'm saying? But it's crazy, man.
House posted this week clearly show homicides in this city are down 30% from 2023. So by definition, things here cannot be worse than they've ever been. Justice Department reporter Jake Rosen joins me now. Jake, tell us.
So people gonna stop hearing this, and then eventually throughout this process, because I'm gonna just wrap it up. Throughout this process, you're gonna have what play out? You're gonna have the civil unrest play out to where a state of emergency can be called, which is a state of emergency allows government to implement extraordinary measures to protect, quote unquote, to protect citizens during crises such as natural disasters or civil unrest. But you see, they setting it all this up to call civil unrest. That's common sense. This is gonna cause civil unrest. All right, but see, that's what they want. They want to have that tyrannical rule, hence order out of chaos. You know, this is 2nd Ezra 15, and jumping to the point, it says 2nd Ezra 15 and 16. It says, "For there shall be sedition among men." Matter of fact, let's go to the 16th chapter first. Let's go to 16 and let's jump to verse 18. It says, let's start at 17. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days, right? Dealing with war, destruction, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars. You got World War, you got Civil War, right? And the powers shall stand in fear, right? That's how bad and how hard people gonna rebel. Lord gonna put a spirit on these people to also take down Esau, the slum lord. You know what I'm saying? Because he talking about getting rid of the slums, but he the slum lord. It says, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? All right. And it says, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment, but for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor always be mindful of the scourges. When they start seeing a lot of their officers dropping dead, they not gonna mind it. They gonna, they gonna maybe we, should stop. Maybe this is they're not gonna this because Babylon has to go down with great violence. All right. So that's how you're gonna have it play out. This 2nd Ezra 15 and 16. I'm gonna start at 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. See, these people that's caught up in the midst of this stuff, they gonna all destroy each other. And it says that when you go to the book of is that Isaiah 19, and 2, it says, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. See, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. So these people gonna be taking each other out. The Americans. It says, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. That's how it's gonna be. It's gonna be the city against itself. Now people fighting back against the law enforcement sent out by the powers that be, which is why they're gonna stand in fear. But they not gonna mind that this is the Lord bringing the end of their world, like He said He would. So when you read on in 2nd Ezra 15, for the sword, verse 15, draws nigh. For the sword and their destruction draws nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hand. They not finna go down like this in their hands. For there shall be sedition, meaning insurrection, right, uprising among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their king. And that's exactly what's happened. People being invasive, they invading one another. You trying to go down the street, just go somewhere, mug, knocking on your window, let your window down. I got your seatbelts on. This a regular dude. You know what I'm saying? In they mind, in the carnal mud's mind. But it is, in reality, ain't nobody hearing that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all not pushing righteousness any damn way. But nonetheless, it says, Y'all ain't the governors of the Lord. It says, and one people shall stand up to fight against another. My bad. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. See that? Because the city's going to be destroyed. It's going to be damn guards everywhere. The National Guard has been loosed into DC, man. And they're going to send it to major cities. It says, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. See, because of the so-called white man's pride, you know, this that damn devil Trump, the cruel Lord, the houses shall be destroyed and men shall be afraid. Exactly, because when they send these troops in, they're not going to have a regard that these people live here. This their neighborhood, this their house. They just going to come wreck and shop. And it's going to go down, man. You know? Well, it's going to be thinking they on a Call of Duty game. Bunch of little young mugs, because there ain't going to be no old ones. It's going to be millennials and probably a bunch of goddamn Gen Z motherfuckers out here, you know, helping execute this. Niggas that just signed up to be a part of the enlisted, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. But see, that's where you got to keep the understanding that this is all to bring, you know, our kingdom, you know, to bring down this place. Because he said, take away the wicked before the eyes of the Lord, and his throne shall be established in judgment. And that's our throne. That's our rule. So this place got to go down. And how is it going to go down? It's going to go down with great violence. This is Revelation chapter 19 and, chapter 18. It says, Revelation chapter 18 and Revelation 18 and verse 21. I'm actually start at 20. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets. Yeah, the truth been now sent out. All right. That was prophesying of this. That knew this would bring the good. Because this was the good. This is the gospel. You know what I'm saying? This is the gospel. This is happening. For God hath avenged you on her. See that? And her being who? America. It says, and a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone. That's a spirit. It says, and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence. See, thus with violence shall that great city, Babylon, be thrown down, and shall be found no more. This is how it's going to go down. And that's going to be the Lord's vengeance on her for us. And him, aka Proverbs 25 and 5, you know, taking the wicked, you know, out the way, so the throne of righteousness can be established. You know, this place ain't gonna be no more. You have to work and all this bullshit, because all these places gonna be destroyed, man. Ain't gonna be no more wicked police, because they all gonna die in these wars. You see what I'm saying? And all these YN niggas, you know, but they gonna be used to take this place out, man. All right. So, yeah. So I want to get one more. Let's go to Psalms 76 and 7. It says, I'm gonna jump to the point. Start at 9. When God arose to judgment, Yahweh Bashem Yahshua arose to judgment to seek to save all the meek of the earth. See that? So start killing niggas and bringing that destruction, you know, was his method of saving us. You know, you getting rid of all the people that's a threat to you, you know, that's a bad influence, from the wicked ass women, the wicked niggas, Jakes, YNs, carnal ass, bloodthirsty heathens, Edomites, you know, wanting to kill and pull triggers. Lord gonna take this place down, man. This whole city that is a system set up to perpetuate all this, you know, around us and to us, and then, you know, on us. Try to on us. But it says, surely the wrath of man, surely the wrath of man shall praise thee. So when these people in their wrath, angry, it's all getting to the glory of the Lord. It's getting his work done. See, so surely the wrath of man shall praise thee. The remainder of wrath shall thou restrain. See, and he gonna control it. It's only gonna go so far. All right. So it says, vow and pay unto the Lord Yahweh your God, let all that be round about him bring presents unto him that ought to be feared, right? Because we gonna know that this is the Heavenly Father, man. He shall cut off the spirit of the princes, right? He shall cut off the spirit of princes. He is terrible to the kings of earth. See that? So he's gonna cut off the spirit of princes. It says he is terrible to the king of earth, of the earth. So he got something for Esau, man. Just like he got something for these wicked jakes. You know, he is terrible to the king of the earth. They don't even see what they helping set up, what they plan out. So that's pretty much the point. All right.
What happened last night here in the city?
Sure. So we saw FBI Director Kash Patel announce this morning that the administration across its federal law enforcement officers had made 43 arrests, but 29 of those were immigration-related arrests, which means that the administration, in its capacity of using now federal law enforcement officers to conduct, whether it's these roadblocks, DUI, or car checkpoints, like you kind of pointed out, or throughout other law enforcement activities, have kind of expanded what we initially saw in the first 5 or 6 days of this, especially now that there's increased National Guard and law enforcement throughout certain parts of the city, to expand that to immigration arrests. And we saw the DC police chief today, Pamela Smith, announce that her administration and her department for the first time is going to be helping, not fully because there are certain DC laws that they cannot skirt around in this situation, but going to be potentially providing transportation for illegal immigrants who are detained by the Trump administration. And these
See, so now they done tied the Southern Kingdom into it, but they still leading with the Northern Kingdom's crazy. So Jeremiah 50:33 thus saith Yahweh Basmi al host the children of Israel, the Northern Kingdom, and the children of Judah. See, then came the children of Judah, the Southern Kingdom, right, were oppressed together. All right, so-called blacks. And all that took them captives held them fast. Now, when you held captive while already being captive, where or how would that be? How or where would that be? We already in captivity, so how could we be taken captive in captivity? You're going to be put in these concentration camps, further in the affliction, right? It says, all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. But the Lord not finna play with y'all. They ain't gonna go down like that. Their Redeemer is strong. Thus, the Lord, the majority of them gonna die, but the elect gonna make it, right? And some of the elect gonna have to be martyrs to prove they alliance or allegiance with Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. It says their Redeemer is strong. The Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that they may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon, because they're going to learn we the people. And at that time, he said it's going to be known who's his chosen. So he's going to plead our cause to where we can actually give rest to the land. We can actually get things back on point. Be as ones, be seen to be as ones is going to get everything back on point. And we'll be the ones too, you know, and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon, because he going to use us to run through these goddamn people at the same time. You know, because it say a sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith the Lord Yahweh, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. See that? So all the politicians, they gonna go down, man. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is upon their horses. So they militaries, all that, and upon their chariots, and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her, and they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. It's gonna be a lot of looting going. This place is gonna go down, bro. You know? It's over with. All right. So this is what we seeing happen. I'm gonna say call them like how about some y'all shy. It's more I can get into, but that's basically the point. You know.
a quick cleanup before.
see it pick up. It's all for our glory. Till next time, hey, we're gonna watch this thing play out. The Lord gonna protect us and have, this story be amazing. Till next time, Shalom.